Well, hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in today. Welcome to It's Time for More Injury Funding, the podcast for all who want to learn about legal funding and its significance in the personal injury, workers' compensation, product liability, civil litigation, medical malpractice, and many other types of law practice domains. I'm your host, Laura, founder and CEO of More Injury Funding, the legal funding counselors with passion for law, medicine, legal funding, and heart for all suffering individuals. More Injury Funding is a sponsor, member, associate, or business partner of this podcast, Georgia Trial Lawyers Association, Academy of Truck Accident Attorneys, Sandy Springs Bar Association, Georgia Association of Paralegals, Atlanta Legal Aid Society, State Bar of Georgia, and St. Andrew Rowing Club, as well as Georgia Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. In today's episode, I have a special guest, Attorney Pierre Prialé with Right Path Law Group, PLLC, based in Fairfax, Virginia. We will talk about unlocking the power of Hispanic consumers, understanding the market and its opportunities. The influence of the Hispanic community is growing in the marketplace, and the marketing to these communities has to be adjusted accordingly in order to engage and connect with the diverse demographic. At the end of our episode, I'll have a fun pop-up question for our guest, Pierre, today. So stay tuned in. Welcome to It's Time for More Injury Funding Podcast, Pierre. How are you?
I'm doing well, Laura. Thank you for the invitation. Glad to be here, and hopefully we can provide some valuable information to your listeners.
Yes, absolutely. Looking forward to it. So your practice is located in Fairfax, Virginia. Can you give us a brief summary of Fairfax, the three things you absolutely love about your city, three things you cannot stand, and maybe three things you are working to improve as a plaintiff's attorney?
Well, yeah, so Fairfax, Virginia, we're actually in what's considered Northern Virginia. We're very close to Washington, D.C. We're about like a 15, 20-minute drive or an hour. It depends on traffic, which is actually in one of my lists. So one of the things that I love about Fairfax, it's actually its proximity to Washington, D.C. We have a lot of great restaurants. I do love to eat good food. We have a lot of entertainment. We have the Kennedy Center. We have several excellent museums for everyone to enjoy, from children to adults. What else? I think it's a great place to raise a family. I myself came to the United States straight into Virginia. We already have family here. We love the schools. We love its parks, its natural beauty. And of course, we love the fact that we do have seasons, as opposed to other states that are it's just hot year round. I do enjoy the seasons. You mentioned the bad. I already teased at it. Traffic is horrendous during rush hour. It's terrible. I feel bad for the people that actually have to commute to Washington, D.C., because depending on the time that you leave your house, you could be stuck in traffic for over an hour. The cost of living, unfortunately, is also rising based on our proximity to DC. And another thing that's really bad about here is we do have some terrible professional teams. We haven't won in a long time. So hopefully we turn it around. I'm rooting for the Washington Commanders, the football team, to turn it around with new ownership. And some of the things that we're doing to improve, I think your question was, how are we improving as plaintiffs' attorneys? So one of the things that I'm very big on is education, not just to potential consumers, but also for my team and myself. I pay for CLEs for all of my employees. I do encourage them to seek out outside training that may be applicable to the job that they're doing, not only to improve themselves in the actual position that they're in, but also I want them to better themselves as human beings. I'm very big on mindset, on personal growth, and I try to encourage them to do whatever it's their calling, because if they're happy, they're going to be happy doing the work for our clients. And I think we're also trying to be very involved with the community. I know this episode is about the Hispanic community, but we do try to find nonprofits that align with our values, and we try to support their efforts. And as we're probably going to get more into details as to how we get involved with the Hispanic community, in particular in their area where we operate.
That's amazing. It's I'm fascinated how you support your local community and how much you invest into your team. That's very important. So let's move right on to our topic of today's discussion, and that is growing influences of the Hispanic community in the marketplace. How does the expanding influence of the Hispanic community impact the personal injury niche, and what opportunities does it present for law firms and attorneys?
Mm-hmm. Well, since I started my firm, well, actually, we're on our third year. Um, I've been a solo practitioner. I had a partner, and now I opened Right Path Law in 2022. I made the conscious decision to invest in marketing, targeting specifically the Hispanic community. And why is that? So as you may know, Hispanic population in the U.S. is about 20%, and it's one of the fastest growing populations in the country. I think now we're second fastest growing. The first one is Asian American population is growing faster than Hispanics, but we're still a vast majority. In Virginia, we're actually about 11% Hispanic. So I looked at it as an opportunity to target an underserved market. And my very first job was as a public defender. And I could see then that the Hispanic defendants in this case were not well represented, given the fact that the communication between them and their attorney was not very good, given the language differences. And unfortunately, a lot of Hispanic Americans that live in the area are not able to speak the language. So, and they're also not very familiar with the laws. They don't know how things work. They don't know what actually they're entitled to. So I made a conscious effort to focus on this market because it's a market that I'm part of. I'm Hispanic, and I wanted to help them out, but also I saw it as an opportunity to invest in marketing, which is at a lower cost, and also knowing that this is a very loyal clientele. I mean, to this day, I still have clients from that I served maybe like 10 or longer years ago, and they're still reaching out to me for help in order to make a referral for one of the family members or a friend that may be in need of one of our services.
That's fantastic. And so what would you say, Pierre, are some cultural nuances and preferences within the Hispanic community that you, as a personal injury lawyer, consider when developing marketing strategies in your community?
Well, the Hispanics are very family focused, and they're also very hardworking. So our message has to be focused with that. Like we do criminal defense and personal injury. So most of our messages have to be targeted as, are you going to be missing time from work? We can get you compensated for that. You don't want to miss time from your family. Your family is dependent on you. We can help defend your freedom. We can help defend your driver's license. We can help you get paid for the medical bills that you're getting. They're very hardworking and unfortunately not well informed. So it's actually, so we have to educate them first and then let them know why we're the right firm for them. So most of our videos are very high on education aspect, telling them like, hey, it doesn't matter what your immigration status is, you're still entitled to compensation. All is not lost. We don't care about your immigration status when you have to go to court to face your criminal charges. You're still going to be well represented, and we care about you, and we want to give you the best outcome possible.
And that's usually probably this question comes up all the time with immigrants, whether they have legal or illegal status. Probably get that quite a bit.
Oh yeah, they don't know that there's a distinction, or you're facing a criminal charge, or immigration status it does not play a role in determining your guilt or innocence. And also, if you've been in an accident, the fact that whether you have legal immigration status or not does not matter. You're still entitled to compensation if you were the victim of, if you suffer injuries as a result of somebody else's negligence.
That's very good to know. And you came up with a tailored approach to your local state of Virginia approach to the Hispanic community by building a brand targeting the Hispanic community market. What is your website called, and what does it do for your potential and current clients?
Right. So our new website, we just started branding it this year. It's called ganamos.com. And ganamos literally means we win.com. And I was lucky enough to find that domain available for sale. So I was able to get it because it aligns with one of our values, which is winning, and winning for our clients in particular. And I wanted to make it a very memorable brand that easy to remember, easy to say, and easy to brand, and again that it also aligns with our values. So we came up with ganamos.com, and I think it's going very well. People are remembering it, and it also allows us the opportunity to perhaps expand our market, because before we had a brand that was called Abogado in Virginia, which means lawyer in Virginia, but we currently serve the whole DMV, which is DC, Maryland, and Virginia, in personal injury cases. So I think this brand will allow us to keep growing geographically.
And how do you effectively communicate with Hispanic consumers who may have limited English proficiency? What language and communication strategies do you employ and would recommend to other PI attorneys nationwide?
Well, I think video is key. And the reason why is not only is the language, but also we found that a lot of our clients, unfortunately, do not know how to read or write. So I think it's important for them to see the attorney, to see the firm or whoever is speaking on behalf of the firm in their language, communicating with them, connecting with them, so they know to build that relationship. It starts with the initial message that you send them, which in this case I found video is very important, making that connection, reminding them that they have rights, and also letting them know that we speak their language. And speaking of language, for other attorneys that may be interested in marketing to the Hispanic community, I would encourage them to do a bit of research, which is what we had to do to know about who is their ideal client, who is their target market, because as you may know, there are Hispanics from all over Latin America, and there's different language nuances as to how you say certain things. So we have to be careful to use a very neutral language so it's not misinterpreted by people from the different parts of Latin America. So it's very important. I know some attorneys in areas where, let's say, there's a lot of Mexicans. So they know that there's Mexican people that are watching their videos and their content, and that's who they're targeting. So they have that flexibility to use slang that only Mexicans may understand, but that's a way to connect with them.
Very interesting. Are there any specific legal issues or concerns with the personal injury realm that are particularly relevant to the Hispanic community? How do you address these concerns and provide tailored services?
Yeah, so again, we do a lot of content. We're putting out content almost daily. We film every 2 weeks. I think we make maybe on average, maybe 10 to 15 videos every 2 weeks. And we're constantly posting content, informing the Hispanic market as to what their rights and obligations are. We talk about specific laws, specific changes in the law that may affect them. We're also present, not just in social media. We post content organically. Then we also have paid ads in Google as well as social media, all the social media platforms. But we're also currently on one of the most popular radio stations in the area. So I'm interviewed there Monday through Fridays in the morning hours. And when I'm interviewed, they're also asking me frequently asked questions. We're talking about our services, of course, and maybe common misconceptions that maybe the Hispanic market, and also I think in general, like a lot of people don't deal with attorneys on a day-to-day basis, so they don't understand that Maybe they don't understand what a contingency fee is. They don't understand that maybe they may be entitled to be represented by an attorney without having to pay one up front, and that we get paid from the insurance directly. Also, going back to what we're discussing, the fact that they're entitled to compensation no matter what their legal status is. And I mean, sometimes they don't even understand, like, oh, they think that because they were driving without a license, they are not entitled to compensation, and that's not the case.
Very interesting. What role would you say does community outreach and engagement play in marketing to Hispanic consumers in the personal injury sphere? How do you build trust and establish relationships within the Hispanic community?
Yes, you know what they say, people buy from people they know, like, and trust. So that's why we're constantly putting I'm putting myself out there every day. We're putting content every day. I mean, as I mentioned, I'm interviewed in the radio every day. Every once in a while, I'm also interviewed by the TV stations for commentary on certain cases that may be happening. And at the same time, we also understand that there's ways to bypass the first initial steps and also borrow trust from people that are already well respected by our potential new clients. Which this means is we're part of our marketing also includes maybe reaching out to influencers, reaching out to other business owners. This is part of our broader business development efforts, to reach out to business owners or businesses that are already doing business with our potential clients, with our ideal clients, in order to get them to endorse us in a certain way after we've built those relationships and they know that we do good work. Then we borrow that credibility, and we try to get referrals that way as well, where the potential new client comes to us already almost pre-sold on our services.
So it sounds like you're doing your marketing while targeting the Hispanic community properly. Are you aware of any other successful examples of other law firms that have effectively tapped into the Hispanic market in the personal injury law practice? What strategies did they employ, if you know of any?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly follow a lot of attorneys, and I follow and listen to a lot of legal marketing podcasts, including yours, of course. And you can see what's working, particularly in states where there's a large Hispanic population. I'm talking about Texas, Florida. In Florida, we have there's an attorney who actually, I spoke with Greg Ward, the Ward Law Group, I believe it's called, and they're out of Florida, and their big thing was radio. And that's why I started doing radio advertising, but not just running ads, but he recommended that to try to connect with the community, find shows where, again, going back to your last question, we borrow from the endorsement of the DJs, the presenters, essentially where they're endorsing my firm as the go-to firm for the Hispanic community. You also have other attorneys that are big on brand building, creating a catchy name. You have this female attorney, Amanda Demanda, which has created a whole persona with her, using the color pink and being on billboards, being on Uber vehicles, essentially making sure that she's memorable. I believe they're also spending a lot on TV, but we're not on TV, for example. I've always heard that if you want to be on TV, you have to aim to be one of the top 3 advertisers. And as you may know, that involves a really high budget that I think it's better spent for us, at least doing community outreach. We try to be present in at least 3 to 5 festivals every summer that they have. And usually for each different country usually has their own festival.
That's wonderful. And you may have mentioned, but you may have not. Which country are you from again originally?
So I was born in Peru.
That's wonderful. Beautiful. Need to visit there one day soon, hopefully soon.
It's beautiful.
Pierre, how do you ensure that your marketing materials and campaigns are culturally sensitive and respectful to the Hispanic community? Do you have any recommendations of some common pitfalls to avoid?
Oh, certainly. So I work with a marketing company whose team is based out of Latin America. So at the very least, you got to make sure that whoever's working on your marketing is a native Spanish speaker and not just running the message through Google Translate. Because even if it's properly translated, the meaning may be lost. So my recommendation is always make sure that a native speaker is double checking the message and images, also to try to make sure that you're connecting and not excluding maybe your ideal target. I particularly, being a native speaker, I review all our marketing materials to make sure that the language, because even when you're working with native Spanish speakers, as I mentioned before, each country is very particular. Like if you're putting out content in, let's say, South America or most Latin American countries about promoting a law firm, they think that the language that you use has to be very proper, very formal. But when I read this piece of marketing and I'm like, well, I can barely understand this. I tell them, hey, we need to make sure that it's easy to read and easy to understand. That's otherwise it defeats the purpose of putting this out there so people can be informed. So make sure that you're using simple language.
Very important. Could you share with our listeners and viewers what channels and platforms do you use effectively to reach Hispanic consumers in the personal injury law arena?
Well, we're on all the major social media platforms. No, we're not on Snapchat. I don't even know how that works. We're on
Me
Facebook.
neither. Probably only our kids, the younger generation. Whatever it's called. They always forget what it's called. Is that Generation X or Y? Which one is it? Z?
I'm X. So there might be the millennials, the Z's, the Y's.
Yes,
So
my
the
son
end of
says
the
so.
alphabet.
My son always laughs at me. How do you don't know? I said, I'm sorry, I don't.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So we are on I would say Facebook, Meta, Facebook, Instagram are our main two channels. We're also on TikTok. TikTok is one of those channels where it's difficult to predict what's going to work or not. So you got to be able to, I guess, to be more open about doing more funny thing. And I don't know, maybe I'll get there eventually. But right now we're putting a lot of content out on Instagram and Facebook. And to be honest, we get most of our leads are coming from Facebook. We're also running Google ads for the Hispanic market in Spanish. We're running Google ads for PI as well as for criminal defense, which is the other practice area that we handle. And I would say, Google and Facebook are the most successful channels for us currently.
Great. What advice would you give to other lawyers to leverage their efforts in digital marketing and social media to engage this demographic?
Well, first of all, I would say find someone that is very knowledgeable of your market. Before we started doing any sort of work with the Hispanic market, we did some research to see, all right, what out of the countries that are represented in our area. We found that it's mainly Central Americans. We also have some South American clients, but we found that Central American clients make up the vast majority of the clients that we've represented. So I would say that we're probably focusing more on Central American, the Central American population currently. That's why we're focusing on the festivals that are representative of those countries, like El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras. They're the big ones. So I would encourage them to do the research. If we're also starting working with influencers, make sure it can be very successful when working with the right influencer. Make sure that you ask them, where is your audience from, right? Because it could be an influencer with millions of followers, but if 99% of them are overseas or in a state where you don't practice, then that's not worth it to you. You got to make sure that you're working with people that are reaching and getting to your target market.
That makes sense. What piece of advice would you give to your fellow personal injury lawyers who seek to collaborate with Hispanic community organizations, influencers, or media outlets to enhance their visibility and credibility within the market?
Well, I would say that unfortunately, sometimes we're in a copycat, I guess, type of culture among attorneys, and they're all talking about carrying a hammer and being very aggressive. I would say become involved with the community. Give back to the community. Be very active in the community, and show them that you care. I mean, they don't, as they say, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And that's something that we're working on. We have to be very patient too, because we know it's a long-term process. And that's something I'm practicing that right now, because unfortunately I'm not very patient, but I know that the Hispanic community understands that we care, because we're very involved and we try to give back as often as we can.
What, in your opinion, are some long-term strategies for building brand loyalty and long-lasting relationships with Hispanic consumers in the personal injury niche?
Well, as I mentioned, we're on the radio. We're mentioning our brand over and over again. We're starting to work with the local micro influencers who have followers in the area that we're targeting currently. We're becoming more involved with nonprofits. We recently made a trip to El Salvador to watch a soccer game, to watch Messi, but we also
I'm
made
jealous.
a lot of it was a great experience. El Salvador is surprisingly an amazing country. It was my first time there, and we got to connect with the people there and put content that we're currently putting out here, and it allows Salvadorians that are living here to connect with us, to see that we know who they are, and to know that we care and enough to actually go to their country, not just to watch a game, but we also took it as an opportunity to participate and to give back to a nonprofit that provides food to the elderly. So we did that as well during this trip.
I love it. How do you, as a personal injury lawyer, ensure you are meeting the evolving needs and expectations of the Hispanic population and clientele?
Well, constantly training, embracing technology is a big one. Evaluating different services that can help us communicate better with them. As I mentioned, I'm a big proponent also of maybe sometimes I hire too many people, but I want to make sure to deliver the kind of service that I would want a family member to receive if they were involved in an accident or facing criminal charges. I think it's very important to put yourself in the shoes of your client in order to provide the type of service that is going to make you the go-to attorney, and then at some point your clients will be your best advocates in sending you more clients and more business.
Absolutely. This is so great. Again, I hope, my dear listeners and viewers, today you've learned as much as I did about unlocking the power of Hispanic consumers and understanding the market and its opportunities. And as promised, here's a fun pop-up question for you, Pierre. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. Sure. What was the last thing you Googled? And be honest here.
Yeah. Well, to be honest, I Googled the percentage of Hispanic population in the US, so I give you the right figure. But that's kind of boring. What I've actually been Googling it was recently my daughter's birthday. She turned 11, and I promised to get her a bike. So I've been trying to find the perfect bike for her. So I'm still looking. Somebody has a recommendation.
Oh, yes. Well, give us a call. Give us a call. We're looking for a bike. Does it have to be pink, purple? Does the color matter?
Well, I'm a PI attorney, so it has to be safe.
Absolutely. That's a good answer right there, Pierre. I love it.
Yes.
Again, that was such an amazing time spent with you today, Pierre. If anyone needs your professional help and is looking for the right path, Law Group PLLC, how can they reach you?
Well, they can find us online, rightpathlaw.com, or they can email me directly at Pierre, Pierre, at rightpathlaw.com.
And do you have social media sources? Which ones? You have briefly mentioned, but just kind of
no,
list them if you don't mind.
I'm very active on Instagram. So P Priale, my first initial, my last name, Priale in Instagram.
Okay, I love it. That was again Attorney Pierre Prialé with the Right Path Law Group PLLC from Fairfax, Virginia. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you all for listening to our story today. For more tips and tricks on legal funding and personal injury law related topics, follow me, download, like, and subscribe to It's Time for More Injury Funding podcast on several podcast platforms worldwide, including but not limited to Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, iHeart, and others. And follow More Injury Funding on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Pinterest, YouTube, Google Business Profile, and my website at moreinjuryfunding.com. That's with 2 O's. I can't wait to see you, my dear listeners and viewers, at my next upcoming episode. Until then, be well. Thank you.